Well, I think it's a reflection of the type of leader she was. She was respected not only in Indian country, but respected in other governments. She was known across Canada.
Tonight, Manitoba pays their respect to the late Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs, Grand Chief Cathy Merrick. New video of a fatal RCMP-involved incident in Atakakoop First Nation is raising more questions into what happened.
No matter what your size is, what you look like, what you do, you can do whatever you put your mind to, and, strong is truly beautiful.
And Amazing Race Canada has named this season's big winners. Tansei, good evening. I'm Cree. Welcome to APTN National News. It's one of the highest honors offered to persons who've served the people to lie in state in the provincial legislature. The late Grand Chief Cathy Merrick of the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs was given that special honor today. Last Friday, Merrick collapsed while talking to reporters outside a Winnipeg courthouse. Her peers say she advocated for ordinary people until her last breath. Here's T.R. Wheatley now with reaction from those attending the event.
Throughout the day, this line has been steady busy from both people from the Indigenous community and Manitobans alike. They're all here to pay their final respects and to say their farewell to Grand Chief Cathy Merrick. Earlier in the day, family, close friends, and leadership gathered outside for prayers and to walk in with Merrick. Once inside, young women wearing ribbon dresses led the procession with Merrick's headdress and a beaded medallion of her home community's flag, the Pimicikamak Cree Nation. Behind them, Merrick's casket is carried upstairs by both RCMP and Winnipeg police officers and into the ceremonial space for viewing. The chief of Pimicikamak spoke about his interaction with Merrick's husband as her family has asked to mourn in private.
Wap Kanu, the premier, asked us if we could have her lay in state, and I asked the husband, and he was very humbled and honored for that to happen.
Grand Chief Garrison City of the Manitoba Kiwetanui Ugumaganak says he was humbled to see so many people in attendance.
It is quite an honor for our people to have our own citizen lie in state in this very respectful establishment, and I know that it helps. And it validates her as a leader. It validates her work and also her character.
Hundreds of people lined the halls of the Manitoba legislature for hours, many too emotional to speak. Outside, people gathered throughout the day, some singing to help Merrick on her spiritual journey home to Creator. Fellow Chief Stan Bird of Peguis First Nation shared his thoughts on Merrick's tribute.
She was respected not only in Indian country, but respected in other governments. She was known across Canada. So I think it's fitting.
There were also some here who never met or knew Merrick, still wanting to pay their respects, including actor Tom Jackson.
It's interesting, even though there's a darkness here, there's also a light. There's a big light, and you don't necessarily see it, but you can feel it, right? So you have an opportunity out there to be here, to come here, to be part of this community. You should do it. It'd be good for your soul.
Merrick was the first female Grand Chief elected by the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. She is the first Indigenous person to lie in state in over a decade. The last person to hold that honor was Elijah Harper in 2013. After the viewing here, there will be a procession led by horses that will take Grand Chief Merrick to the RBC Convention Center, where there will be a public wake. And then tomorrow, her family is expected to take her back to Pimicikamak, where they will have a proper traditional burial for her over the weekend. T.R. Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Thank you, T.R. Ontario's police watchdog is investigating a fatal shooting in the city of Windsor, which local media say involved an Indigenous man. It is now the 5th police-involved death of an Indigenous person in just 11 days in Canada. According to the Special Investigations Unit, Windsor police were called to a business in the downtown area to deal with a disturbance on the morning of September 6th. They say there was an interaction between a 57-year-old man and police, and that an officer shot the man, who was transported to hospital where he was pronounced dead. The SIEU has not released the identity of the deceased, but according to local media outlets, the victim was 57-year-old Jason West, who was further identified as a 60-scoop survivor. The Special Investigations Unit is looking to speak with anyone who witnessed this incident. We are learning a little more about the incident on the Atakakoop Cree Nation in Saskatchewan on Sunday morning that left one man dead, a woman injured, a police officer injured, and the RCMP handing the investigation over to the Saskatchewan Serious Incident Response Team, or CERT. A video of the alleged RCMP shooting was posted to social media this week. APTN News has received permission from a family member to air the video, and they identified the man as 31-year-old Daniel Knife from Atakakoop. The video was recorded from a distance, and it can be difficult to see what is actually unfolding. A warning to our viewers, what you are about to see may be disturbing. In the video, RCMP can be heard saying to Knife, "Put the gun down," numerous times. Knife is then seen kneeling and throwing an unknown item towards the officers before he is hit with a single shot. Seconds before the shooting, a young child is seen walking out on the deck of the house. In both the RCMP and CERT's initial press releases of the incident, a gun is not mentioned, only saying that a confrontation happened before the shot was fired. RCMP cannot comment on the video because CERT is now overseeing the investigation. APTN News requested a comment from CERT regarding the specifics of the video compared to the statements released of the incident. CERT would only say that it is taking all available evidence into consideration as the investigation continues. RCMP initially said they were responding after a 27-year-old woman was allegedly assaulted with a machete by Knife. Earlier in the morning, she was taken to hospital. An officer was also treated for non-life-threatening injuries. RCMP said they provided life-saving efforts to Knife until paramedics arrived. Paramedics later pronounced Knife dead at the scene. A federal complaints agency says the RCMP acted unreasonably while enforcing a civil injunction during the Fairy Creek logging protests on Vancouver Island. Here's APTN's Sarah Connors with more.
The Civilian Review and Complaints Commission, or CRCC, published its final report Wednesday on the RCMP's handling of a public complaint made in 2021. At the time, protesters had set up camps and erected obstacles on Forest Service roads in the Fairy Creek watershed to prevent old-growth logging. The complainant, who was not a protester, was hiking along a road in the area. He was stopped at an RCMP checkpoint and refused entry to go any further. He was eventually arrested for refusing to leave the area. The review determined that the RCMP's demand to search the complainant at the checkpoint on a public road was unfounded and that his arrest, after refusing a search, was groundless. The CRCC found the practice of searching people crossing into what were called exclusion zones was unreasonable and violates their charter rights. The RCMP commissioner agreed with most of the report's findings and recommendations. It committed to developing a national policy on policing and enforcing similar protests. Sarah Connors, APTN National News.
If you want APTN News at your next event, we're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation with us. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to www.aptnnews.ca. You can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, LinkedIn, and X. And you can watch this newscast anywhere, anytime on YouTube. Follow us at APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. We will bring you an update on the incident at a Saskatoon school that left one student with severe burns after being lit on fire. We're back in about 3 minutes. Stay with us. Welcome back. Flowers, signs of support, and donations are pouring in following last week's violent attack at Evan Hardy Collegiate in Saskatoon. A student was set on fire and a classmate has been charged with attempted murder. Saskatchewan's education minister says the attack could have been much worse. CTV's Laura Woodward has more.
A typically busy lunch hour at Evan Hardy Collegiate, quiet. Classes were canceled and counseling was offered to staff and students reeling from a terrifying incident on Thursday. A 15-year-old girl was doused in a flammable substance and lit on fire at the school. She was airlifted to an Edmonton hospital and is suffering from serious injuries. Sean Hayes, a teacher at the school who tried to intervene and put out the flames, was also taken to hospital. The child's classmate, a 14-year-old girl, has been charged with attempted murder. Saskatchewan's Education Minister Jeremy Cockrell says he received a call about the incident on Thursday night. He says while it's horrible, it could have been worse.
As unfortunate as the situation is, and I know we've got people recovering from injuries, you know, I can't help but think it could have been worse, and so I'm glad it wasn't.
NDP leader Carla Beck says she's reached out to the victim's family.
I don't know the particulars of the case that we're talking about here, but I do know that kids in schools right across this province are going up without the supports that they need, and that has very real consequences.
Cockrell says he takes classroom safety very seriously.
And I'm open to having a discussion around more school resource officers, but certainly, you know, classroom safety is of utmost concern.
Meanwhile, donations are pouring in for the student and teacher injured. More than 1,200 donors have contributed to the two campaigns, both exceeding their financial goals. In a letter sent out to families, the school principal says some staff members found it difficult to be back in the building. Evan Hardy is scheduled to have a half day on Tuesday with police officers and additional support staff on site. Laura Woodward, CTV News, Saskatoon.
It was the Assembly of First Nations that was before the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal in Ottawa on Wednesday. The First Nations Child and Family Caring Society is taking Ottawa to task for what it says is non-compliance with Jordan's principle. But as it turns out, the AFN has filed its own motion that requests all relief sought by the Caring Society be dismissed. APTN's Fraser Needham has that story.
AFN lawyer Stuart Wetke says Indigenous Services Canada's responsibility for Jordan's principle has grown far beyond what was intended by the CHRT's original 2016 orders, creating an unmanageable situation.
And we are concerned that, you know, that as Jordan's principle increases and people are accessing Jordan's principle for services that they could easily get from another government program, that it will drive up the numbers. At some point, it could be unmanageable. And we're already seeing that with respect to the high volume in Canada's inability to process applications in a timely manner.
Wetke notes the volume of Jordan's principal requests ISC receives has increased from about 6,000 in 2016 to well over 100,000 per year. But Caring Society Executive Director Cindy Blackstock says the CHRT orders are working exactly as they should, and if ISC is unable to handle the volume of requests, that is the government's problem.
Like, there should be one pathway when you're a parent. It shouldn't be up to you to chase down the different departments and figure out who can meet the needs of your child. And there's a serious lack of coordination, which continues today.
Wetke also says the Caring Society's motion paints an inaccurate picture of the overall good job ISC is doing in processing Jordan's principal requests.
In this proceeding, there is a gross lack of evidence. We have evidence that was tendered by the Caring Society with respect to a number of difficulties individuals have with respect to Jordan's principle or that they had. But there are just dozens of those examples out of the hundreds of thousands of applications that have been successfully approved.
Yet for her part, Blackstock says the Caring Society continues to receive numerous complaints about how the government is failing to deliver on expectations of the program.
I mean, for us, the evidence is families coming directly to us and pleading for help, and First Nations coming to us, sending band council resolutions, writing letters, doing that type of thing. What I would say on that side is we've not seen one letter from a First Nation organization or a parent supporting AFN's position.
The current set of CHRT hearings wraps up on Thursday. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
In New York City today, a solemn ceremony to remember the thousands of lives that were lost 23 years ago during the 9/11 terror attacks. Earlier this morning, in a rare show of unity, the two presidential nominees found themselves face to face, once again greeting each other with a handshake, the same way they began last night's presidential debate. On this day, every morning for the past 23 years, families who lost loved ones in the attack make the solemn trek to remember the nearly 3,000 people killed in the attacks. A partnership between a First Nation and a fish farm company in British Columbia could potentially pave a new forward for sustainable and economic benefits. APTN's Tina House recently visited the fish farm and has more on this development.
Situated just outside of Port McNeill, a small community on the northern tip of Vancouver Island, where fishing and forestry are the main economy, is the Kutera Fish Farm. Opened in 2013, the operation is only one of two fish farms in BC that is completely on land. It's isolated from wild populations of fish, and it's fed by well water by the nearby Nimkish River. In this promotional video by the company, they explain how the process works.
We use state-of-the-art technology to recycle and to reuse the vast majority of water in the system. That allows us to have much greater control over all the things that are important to the fish, and so create optimal conditions for them to grow in 24/7 so that the fish are happy and content, and as a result they perform very well.
The Numgis Nation, whose traditional territory the operation is based from, are partners in Kutera. Ernest Alfred says he's proud of the partnership and says it's a great example of how First Nations can play a major role in sustainability and economic development.
Our nation has become leaders and pioneered technology here, and that we share it freely with anybody who is interested in learning about it and maybe perhaps learning from some of the side steps we've made with the project. But I think for us, it was the fact that we needed to be a leader in terms of this technology and in terms of protecting our wild salmon.
However, despite the success of Kutera, not all the fish farmers in BC are happy. Just this past June, the federal government announced plans on banning open-net salmon farms in the ocean by 2029 due to the risk of farmed fish interacting with wild fish and potentially spreading diseases and sea lice. Ernest Alfred was part of the fight to protect wild salmon from the open-net farms and says he supports the government's decision.
I really hope that our government takes this as an example to follow, and that we want to set that example as leaders and to see what is happening in the Broughton, for example, or in the discoveries where farms have been taken out. We see the life returning, and that's really important for us.
Brian Wadhams is on the Numgis Council. He says that fishing in BC is not what it used to be, and he is grateful for this opportunity for his nation to benefit from the industry in a new way.
The opportunities in the salmon fishing industry was second to none for the coastal communities up and down the coast of British Columbia, and we've lost that resource. And that's why we need to look at alternatives to open net systems so that we can restore, rebuild, and start to benefit from the wild salmon once again.
Tina House, APTN National News, Port McNeill.
Thank you, Tina. Amazing Race Canada has crowned this year's winners. We'll bring you an update. Plus, before we go to break, APTN's Annette Francis is in Windsor, Ontario today. Here is a look at one of the stories she is working on.
Hi, I'm Annette Francis. I'm here in Windsor, Ontario, gathering information about a 26-year fight to gain status. A mother and daughter of Sandy Bay First Nation in Manitoba gained status in 2007. 2 years later, the registrar deregistered them without notice. And this past summer, the Ontario Superior Court of Justice ruled in their favor, but both mother and daughter passed away before seeing their victory. It's a story that involves fraud from the late 1800s. Watch for this story coming soon on APTN National News.
Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Greg Scriver was able to catch this amazing sight as a golden orange and red hue spread across the clouds above St. John's, Newfoundland. Stunning photo, Greg. Thank you for sharing. If you have a photo you would like to share, send your photos to share@aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Over on the East Coast, St. John's 19, Charlottetown 23, Cartwright 13, the Grand River 17, 26 in Squamish, Gaspé 25, Toronto 28, Sault Ste. Marie 29, 29 in Timmins, Big Trout Lake 21, Puckatawagan 19, Churchill 19 as well, Winnipeg 29, Princess Harbor 25, Estevan 28, Yorkton 25, 17 in La Ronge, Stony Rapids rain and 17, Fort McMurray 17, Peace River sunny and 22, Lethbridge rain and 14, Red Deer 12, Tofino 17, Kamloops 24, Sandspit 16, Smithers 20, Watson Lake 12, Mayo 11, 17 in Yellowknife, Fort Simpson 22, Colville Lake 12, Sax Harbor 1 in snow, Chesterfield 10, Baker Lake 12, and Clyde River 7 and the Glulik 5. An Indigenous provincial sports organizer and her best friend have won one of Canada's biggest competition shows. Taylor McPherson and Katie Mulcahy crossed the Amazing Race Canada finish line first, winning $250,000. McPherson and Mulcahy entered the competition to inspire young women to embrace physical sports, championing the motto, "Strong is beautiful." Mulcahy says they face challenges but learn to refocus to win. She hopes young women see their journey and do not let fear hold them back. When McPherson isn't racing across Canada, she works with the Indigenous Sports Council of Alberta. She hopes winning the competition will help launch a project to bring sports to remote Indigenous communities. McPherson says this season shows that believing in yourself makes anything achievable.
We had some strong competitors throughout this entire race, and even in the finale, 2 6'5" men who are baseball players, professional baseball players. Like, it's insane, to think that just little Taylor and Katie took it all home, So it really goes to show that, no matter what your size is, what you look like, what you do, you can do whatever you put your mind to, and, strong is truly beautiful.
Congrats, Katie and Taylor. And that's your evening national newscast for this Wednesday, September 11th. Both APTN In Focus and APTN Investigates are celebrating 15 years since its inception. A big congratulations to both teams and happy 15. From everyone at APTN National News, Masicho, Miigwech, hi hi. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next day.